What's going on? It's your boy DameSmiff. And so this evening we're gonna have a conversation about production and simply how it works, why it's important to artists, and what's really gonna be in store for artists in the future. So if this is an interesting conversation for you, let me know by hitting the like button and subscribing, and let's get into it. So for many artists, I usually see people learning, from their influences, meaning like the artists from before, how to play their instrument, what to play on their instrument, and what really works as far as success. And that's okay. That's good because that means you're capable of being intelligent, right? But the issue that we're running into, and it's a exponentially growing issue, is that more and more people lack the ability to create. And what do I mean by that? It means that if I were to just place a piano in front of you and then hit record, there are so many influences in your head, it's going to be hard for you to innovate without more effort than you need, in my opinion. And that usually it comes from trying to explore maybe just your growth as a musician, or trying to just understand your role in society as an artist, maybe your role in society as a person, maybe you have personal things. But these are things that I notice that typically plague business, and it's a thing that when it starts to become a landscape of artists that lack innovation, we get bored and we start creating things that don't matter to us, and it starts to sound soulless, and we lose a lot of the connections with our fans. And what do I mean when I say that? In a nutshell, especially for younger artists, you may not understand what I'm saying because I had to learn this too. It's that there are roles we play in society that just work, that you can just look at them as options for you as a person. And these could be things like the busker on the street. You can be a teacher. You can give other music students lessons. You can be a roadie, maybe an audio engineer. Maybe you can be a music videographer and actually like make short films for other musicians and bands and things like that. There are a lot of different things that have just kind of like already been set in stone that we know work. And if you know how to play that role, you can be good at it, right? And what I mean by we in general start to get bored is that there's no innovation in these roles when it comes to specifically our industry. And so what again do I mean by that? So when I had another video on this channel, there was a conversation about technology and musicians. And the key thing I wanted you to pull away from that was that the tech industry, though it greatly affects the music industry, is its own industry. So that means that we're still in competition. We still are rivals, for a better term. And that's just strictly off of business. It's not that we're against one another. It's just that we have to kind of like push each other. And over the years, as I've been a music student, I've noticed that many musicians try to find comfort in the music industry. They don't necessarily try to innovate. And now what that truly looks like is taking a sound that sounds like maybe something that it could be influenced, but it's yours, and then taking that sound and then riding its wave. What I am seeing more likely to happen is that a musician will try to create a sound, but if it doesn't work immediately, they will look for what works and then fall to what's comfortable. So that could mean, in terms of hip hop, that could mean like rapping like another artist, or maybe using the same producer. In terms of pop music, rock, and country, that could mean that whatever the fans are really clicking on and streaming, we're going to start to sound like that, or we're going to kind of weave it into our next album so that way we can attract that kind of fan base. And so as an artist, it kind of reeks of the business side and less of the creative side. And that's only an issue when it gets to a point to where there's only like one every 5 years you get a musician trying to actually be creative or that we support being creative. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that there's like no one being creative. It's just that there isn't a overall support of creativity. There is actually an overall support of successful business. If you're a musician and you can market anything well, we will support that. And that just goes across the board for any industry. But the issue is that we don't support innovation and creativity with the same vigor. And so you'll see many artists when they're debuting maybe like a big album of theirs, or maybe they're just debuting into the industry, they'll do a cover or a sample of something from the 40s, the 50s, 60s, and sometimes 70s. And it's just to show that they have, I guess, some kind of recognition or rite of passage with their career to say, I have connection to something you may know. Now check out all my other music. So that can work, and ideally it does. But the issue again is that it's just so common. People think that's an option versus just being themselves. And so when we're having a conversation about production, to bring it all full circle, is that there has to be a focus and an intent to be productive and to be innovative. And that sometimes is weird. Like, for example, I have, digital audio workstations set up here, and I'll pull out my MIDI board and I'll start playing stuff. And then when I hear something that's like either technically a wrong note or maybe a weird sound kit or drum loop that I'm playing, I'll try to fit it into the song, like forcefully try to fit it in there just to see if it works. And then if it obviously doesn't work, we'll pull it out. Now, the reason I'm doing that is it's practicing the muscle memory to say, listen for weird things, look for strange and unusual sounds, and then try to incorporate it into your music, because this is innovation and it's not supposed to feel comfortable. It's supposed to kind of like shock you or make you feel something, right? And at that point, that's when I, as an artist, can take the personal choice to say, okay, I do want this feeling or I don't want this feeling. It's too weird, or maybe I can change it or put a filter on it, and whatever, the song calls for. But if we don't have that intent, then we will just follow what's comfortable, because I can easily get into any digital audio workstation. I don't care what you put in front of me, and I can make a song in 10 minutes. But it's not going to be the greatest song. It will be a song. I can give you all the instruments I need to get a instrumental done. I can improv. I don't really need 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 takes. I already have in my head riffs and loops, and I have the muscle memory to play them. I'm good to go. I don't have to find the sounds. I know how to manipulate the waveforms to be able to create the sounds and the feels that I want. I just need somebody to mix it, at most, maybe master. And so I can get a song done 10 minutes, but it's not going to be great. It's just going to be maybe something we've heard before or something that sounds familiar. So that's why it takes time and it takes a lot of intention to be very innovative. And you can see it in the biggest projects to the smallest projects. It's monotonous, it's boring. You can hear that they're not challenging themselves. You can hear that their teacher taught them how to play. You can hear a lot of different indications in the music that's coming from an artist, whether or not they are actually trying to innovate what they're doing. Now, this can also be this can be something you kind of want to be in control of. You don't want it to be way overboard, right? Meaning that you don't want to find a sound that's just so weird and so unique no one's really buying it either, because this is the music business. But maybe it is something that you could try to use or, utilize. And this is where you can find different purposes for music. And for me, I found, you know, there are different occupations you can use for music and sound and things like that that can increase your productivity. and help you kind of dig into those intentionally weird sounds and things like that. So one of those things is being a Foley artist. And this is simply a person who uses everyday objects and maybe sound or things and, objects and things like that to make sounds for film, movies, video games, commercials, anything, just anything that needs audio. It can be audio books, and these are options that allow for a musician to kind of like understand sound a little better. So now you can really visualize a kick drum, you can visualize a footstep, you can probably visualize my voice if you can get good enough. And I think the key to that is understanding that that is an option to increase your brand as a musician, and also understand that it increases your productivity. It means it opens up another job for you. Now, this is important in this conversation because it makes you kind of wrap your mind around, well, as an artist, am I more of a consumer or am I a producer? Am I a singer that's going to take over next year, or am I a singer that's the hardest worker? Both can be good things, but which one do you want to be? The hardest worker can sing their ass off, but they didn't really push the needle. So it depends on how you view your career and whether or not you want to be person A or person B. So all in all, when I'm having this conversation with musicians, the main thing I want you to focus on is that you have to outwork people and innovate. You have to do both. Honestly, you have to be able to be the person who, if you're a rapper, you can rap in 2 languages, 3 languages, 4 languages, the most languages. You can do the most push-ups. You're physically fit. You understand business, and you have principles that are helpful to people. Maybe you have integrity and things like that. All of these things, and that goes for any genre. I used hip hop as just an example, but same with country, rock. You can do death metal, all these things. If you're not an integral person making money and cool looking and a cool person to be around, I don't know how productive you really are. Maybe you're just fitting in. But if this is a conversation that's interesting to you, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, and I'll make more content like this. And I'm out, y'all. Peace.